So hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. A brief video now about the construction of a new truck, that I made back in time. I made that one. That was the first Chinese 6, what in Italia we call Baffone, the big mustache truck. It was a cab that I built it up from the ground. It was a completely scratch build creation. That I made. I think now it's something like 10 years ago, and then I improved it 2-3 times. This is the last edition, and currently isn't available because I sold them out completely. And I also want to thank you all to trust me and to buy my items and to love them. It's incredible when when I have to post items around the world. I'm still happy to send them around Europe, but when I see some of them going to Texas, to New Zealand, Australia, and so on, it's really surprising me. So thanks a lot for your trust in what I do. This was the last edition, it was the last copy. And this is really basically the last copy that I have in my stock, that I want to keep it for myself because I want to build it up a Fiat 690, the double steering wheel, 6x2 truck. And was of course marked with the N, means no. It was a copy that I didn't want to separate. There was something in the checkings that I probably already fixed. I cannot see. It was something problems, a minor problem in the casting, and usually my items are quite appreciated for the quality that I used to spread around. I want to sell nice stuff. I don't want to sell garbage. And this was my first creation. I built it up that 10 years ago. And now was time, after some commission works, after some other models that you've seen in my Facebook pages, and preparation of other items like that one, 934/5 in Golf livery, plus other couple of items on McLaren cars, Now was time for me to take in brackets I can say a pause from this kind of work and create another fellow, another fellow of the same period of that Fiat 6 series. This is the Lancia Esagamma. They were basically the same truck of the Esa Delta. Esagamma and Esa Delta were basically the same family of trucks. They had in common the cab. I wanted to create this model that never existed in 1/24 scale. So I basically proceed in the same identical way as I did for that other model. So basically you have that. Sorry for the mess. As you can see, this is my Swedish studio, my Swedish position. It's a little bit messy, but I found all my tools in my mess, so I feel home here when I work in this place. It's really man cave, and that's little window that I have up there. Over the wonderful island of Marstrand in Sweden, is a paradise on earth, and I'm so lucky that I can work here and make my creation from this lovely man cave. So as I said, I start basically from the drawings. I had to find proper drawings in scale that I had to reduce with Photoshop to 1/24 scale, so basically the three side of the truck, with the dimensions reported in 1/24 is basically what I can do, because I don't have so much documentation about this truck, so I had basically to search all the pictures around. They made, reductions in scale to have the proper dimensions. So with the real dimension, with the real quotes of the real vehicle, I can obtain the dimension in 1/24 scale, and then basically reported this in what is this type of material. I would like to show you like this to have an idea. This is a plastic card, 3mm thick, quite hard material to work with. It's not so easy to sand and to curve. Probably the problem is when you have to create the curves. And all the trucks that I like so much from back in time, they were very particular for the curves that they had. They were not like modern stuff, so squared and so precise. You see that they are completely made by machines. This was much more artisanal items, created by Lancia. This truck, the Esagamma E, I fall in love because one time I seen a picture of the big tank tractor that was refueling the Boeing 747 in Malpensa, and it was an incredibly big monster, 4x6, taking a 4,000 liter kerosene JP4 fuel for the Boeing 747. You know, it was incredible. You know, and this was basically a truck that Lancia factory. You know, the Lancia from Lancia Delta, that is famous worldwide for the cars. You know, back in time it was a factory, probably one of the most important factory we had in Italy. It was a kind of Italian Mercedes, to have an idea. You know, for quality vehicle, luxury stuff, and very the taking care of the stuff. They were really, was really a company. I think it was founded in 1927 by Vincenzo Lancia in Turin. It was an incredibly good quality firm of the back in time. You know, but in I think it was around the end of the 60s, you know, it was when Fiat overtake to Lancia. They also took the veicoli commerciali, so the commercial vehicles departments making this kind of trucks. So of course they were in the same range of the 6 Series Fiat, and of course the Fiat itself decided to make it lower and lower the production of this truck. This truck have been produced between 1964 to 1978 in different versions. You know, some of the version were 3-axle, 4-axle. You know, they were incredibly different combination. If you Google for Lancia Esagamma truck, you will have millions of images of this. It was a very nice and reliable truck, you know, and its line was, you know, characterized by that reinforcement that they had in the side panels, you know, as well as you see, it was very important to give this curvature to the cab, you know, not to make it go down squared like other trucks are. You know, this was particularly, I mean, if you see picture of the Esagamma, there is a guy that sometimes I cross in Facebook, I think from Egypt or North Africa, that is driving one of these monsters today. You know, I don't know if they fixed the engine, what did they do to them, but they are still active. It is incredibly nice because it's completely rust. It really seems like a working diorama. I love that vehicle. You know, I think it's active somewhere in between Libya and Egypt or Tunisia. And it's incredible to see stuff that were being created in Turin in 64, 65 and still active in 2023 somewhere in Africa. And it means that the stuff was anyway good stuff, you know. Yeah, I don't know if you can do the same stuff with modern vehicles, you know. They did it with these old Italian fellows, you know. It was also quite hard for me to recreate the panels that they had. You know, this was a kind of steel panel that they had. It was a little also bit complicated to find the proper documentation of the real vehicle. I was able to cross Mr. Smarazzato when he was still alive, you know, one of the last year that he spent in Novegro, in the Novegro Expo, and it was extremely interesting to spend some words with him. He was really loving this stuff, you know. He liked so much the Isotta Fraschini truck and also the Esagamma, and he took to this expo the Esagamma in a version, I think it was the Carrellone version, so it was the version able to load other vehicles, you know, an incredibly nice and well saved truck, you know. And it was possible for me to have pictures and images for the details that I didn't have, you know, because already when I was a kid, I'm a kid from the 70s, but already in the 70s this truck was old and was not so much more common, you know. The other one, the Fiat, was much more common and much more present on the road. This was a little more a unicorn, you know, was a little more rare, but there is a branch of interviews to the people that had it and worked with it that simply loved it so much because it was incredibly reliable, you know. These were machines that they always worked, few requests, few maintenance, and constantly working and moving everything, moving the hell, you know, with not so many requests. It was also important when I gave the shape to this. As I said, I just used that kind of plasticer, you know. Here you can see the debris and the cut stuff. I think I used tons of blades in cutting them, you know. The blade, when the blade is fresh, you can cut them not more than 10 times, and the blade start to be a little bit not working like it should be, so you have to change the blade very often. So I had a hell to do this stuff. Is extremely complicated. That's why I get so angry when I find the fellows in Italy. Just Italians do that to me. They want to copy my cab, you know. No, you have to buy the cab from me. You don't have to copy the cab from me. And so it was extremely hard for me to recreate it. Also, if you can see, if you have a look at that corner, at that angle, as you can see, the front edge is slightly getting inside, despite the front end is completely flat here in this position. You may asking why it is still not present the front shield. You know, it retakes the shield from Lancia. and it was very very nice because it is extremely detailed with a quite big other shield inside and with the writing here, and that is why the part is missing, because I asked to the guy from KMP, to Andrea, if he can make this part in 3D for me, for my request, as well as the Esagamma and Esa Delta logo for the truck, for whom we want to build also the Esa Delta version. So I think they can become a very very nice and pretty detailing grill made in 3D, instead of recreating that. It is not so complicated for me to do the part, but of course, if it is made in 3D, I think it will be incredibly better and much more easy also for my work. Is a little plus more, as well as the photo etch side. We will see about the photo etching, maybe some writings. I can plan something for that, but still, I wanted to show you the status of the progress, of the building up of the model. This is the hole for the handle to open the door. I recreate the hinges, and I had to be a little bit heavy with details, because when you cast this stuff, because the idea currently it is still to make copies of this track. So for now, honestly, I have to be honest with you guys, I have big problems now in producing these items, so for a lot of people that is asking me also about that or the Fiat 170, there are currently big issues about the production of these items. Not because of money, not because of what I do, but simply because there have been a huge fire and a big explosion in the facility where I used to produce this stuff, and the guy was nearly hurt. It was just a miracle that nothing bad happened. There was an ugly video that I posted in my social media about the fire, the explosion and the fire that they had there. He had the house and the laboratory completely devastated, so the mold of such items don't exist any longer. I saved the master, because every time I keep the master by myself, so the master still exists, but currently is absolutely complicated. This is a kind of tragedy that happens sometimes in life, and I'm just happy that the guy is not hurted. I wanted just to meet him, talk about football, have a beer together, but when you find the news, your local Milano, Lombardia news about what happened there, and you see the images, you simply get scared. This place that that is falling apart after fire. So it's a real tragedy. And currently, I heard a few days ago from the guy, he's doing well. He have big volunteer to go on. He just basically produces for his friends, and I'm lucky to be one of them. But after you have been in a fire and an explosion, it's complicated. It's extremely complicated. So I don't want to push him. I just want him to take his time, to be relaxed, and meanwhile I create the master. The master. I have some guys that is pressing me. When do you think it will be produced? When do you think? When do you think? I don't think. I just want to create the master. Then when the master is done, so I take my time to produce this. Andrea will have his time to produce the front grille, and then we have to plan for the production. So my point is just create him in a decent way, in a decent 1/24 scale. The track will be incredible. Will be also possible to use it with the same identical concept that I had for that track. So I basically will provide my cab plus the wheels. That is a sample wheel coming from the first generation of wheels that I did with the Continental tire, and all the rest must be scratch build. I think quite easy, taking whatever AMT track. You just need a basic chassis, and using the picture you can basically create all the version, the 4x2 or the 6x4 of this track, because basically we provide the cab, the lower part that is currently in production, in developing. I'm starting from another part with similar dimension from the Buffo track, that will be modified and different tune, no needing for V8 engine, so will be round over there. That is the second part of the master. I think much more easy than this one. This was the real complicated part. If you notice at some picture, it was a little bit tricky to find images from the top roof of the vehicle, because as I said, of this one I don't have so much documentation. The vehicle was itself quite common on the road, but quite rare for documentation, and Lancia Veicoli Industriali didn't went on so much, so it is part of the Fiat archive. And I wanted to produce the version without the upper door. There was some trucks that had the upper door, but in this configuration, for people will be much more easy to cut away, to sand away this welding line. They were famous to have this half welding line running all over the cab, probably for I don't know, for molding reason of the original Lancia factory. So as I said, it will be very easy to send it away and place the upper door over here and make it the upper escape door and the ventile door, you know. That's it. I think it's coming really to life very, very well. I make also the corniche that have been still to be refined. This is just the first layer of primer. Today I get the boost of primer here in my studio, so I can go on, I can go further. You know, it was just a little shade to see how it's going on. You know, just a basic, and under is painted in black to have a better idea of the cones and the shadows created by the manufacturing of this material. It is extremely hard to do this stuff, but I think you understand the type of work that I'm doing. So for now it's everything, and that's all. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will keep you updated when I will be done with the under part of the truck and the bumper. Of course, this was a strange truck because if you see picture, it was curious because he had a couple of round lights over plus a couple of square light in the bumper, you know. So it was particular configuration of the vehicle. You know, I think it's extremely interesting to see when it will be completed. This is the, I guess, a kind of 60%, 70% of the production was the main head of the Esagamma and Esadelta trucks. As you can see, I concentrated so much on the curvatures of the part. You know, the curvatures are so badly important. You cannot make it square. You have absolutely to follow picture. Then of course there is detail that have to be sanded, and still a long way to do. But that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed. See you in the next one.